Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be going through some makeup hacks and I'm going to show you how I get 16-hour wear out of my makeup, how I get, minimal wearing on my nose, how I kind of accentuate features that are minimal, all those kinds of things. So if that sounds interesting, we're going to get into it right now. But before we get started, please take a moment, make sure you are subscribed, hit that little button down below if you're already subscribed. Thank you so much for coming back. Hope you're doing well. Make sure you hit the little notification bell so you get alerted whenever I post new videos. I have a couple more giveaways coming up, so you won't want to miss out on those. And yeah, if you want to see my makeup hacks and some tricks and things that I've learned along the way, then just keep watching. Okay, so all I've done is moisturize. So we're going to get into the hacks. Now to start, I do spray my face lately. I've been doing like the Pixie Glow just because I've been wanting a little bit of luminosity because I've been wearing my mineral powder, but like the Smashbox primer water is good. You can even just do, like if you're oily, I would recommend going in with something like the all-nighter spray just to spray down your bare face because it's going to help control the oils. So another good one is the Truffle Radiant Dew by Skin & Co. This is a good one. So I'm going to use the Pixie one. Like towards the back, just because I've been using that a lot. But yeah, like I said, if you're oily, I would stay away from the dewy ones. And do a good drugstore alternative to the all-nighter would be the Milani Make It Last is another. I mean, clearly I use that one because in my all-nighter, I need to... I mean, I still have some, but that one's going to need to be repurchased. So I just let that kind of sit. And it gives me a little bit, I mean, you can kind of see it makes me a little bit shiny, but it's not. But if you're oily, the dewy ones are going to make you more oily and break down your makeup more. So the first issue I have is with foundation wearing around my nose. Now, I have the problem of my nose runs because my allergies are bad. So I'm constantly like going like this. So that makes it worse, but foundations will like break down. Like I'm a dry person, but there is a tiny bit of oil like on my nose and it will break down foundation. So I have the worst time between my glasses, wiping my nose and just natural wear. Foundation just doesn't want to stay on my nose. So the hack that I have found is to put eyeshadow primer down. Now this hack I did not come up with. NIKKA Joy, she is an Australian YouTuber. I will link her down below. She does a whole video on keeping foundation on your nose. She's oily. So you would put just in like what you would put on your eyelid. I have used, she recommended the MAC paint pot, which I do own. I don't like that on my nose just because I do have a couple of creases like right here. And the MAC paint pot is thick and I think that's the issue. So I have found the Ulta matte eye primer works better on my nose than the MAC paint pot. But if you're really oily and you own the MAC paint pot, I would say just try it, but go in very thinly. Like I went in too heavy even with this the first time and it'll settle into lines. So yeah, you just pat that on. Like I said, use the amount that you would put on your eyelid. I've had the habit of wanting to put too much because it's a bigger surface, but yeah, don't. And so we got the eyeshadow primer down. Don't put any primer on your nose other than what you're going to spray. And then for face primer, I'm just using the No Problem Touch and Soul. And so I'm going to put this on the rest of my face. Now, if you have a problem with pores, You can go in now and prime it, but dab it, don't smear, because then you're gonna move the primer around. But I found that is because it's slightly tinted, and if you use the MAC one, it's even more like pigmented. It helps, and it is a primer, so I feel like it does fill a little bit. So I don't find I need to prime anything, but don't put primer down first because it's just going to cause slipping on your nose more so than there already is. Okay, and you can use a brush or a sponge. For foundation, we're just going to use the CoverGirl Vitalist Healthy Elixir. This is the foundation Mike used in the video where he does my makeup. I'm going to see if I can do this with the viewfinder, not bring my mirror over. We'll try. And I do my nose last because you don't. Another common mistake. I might have to bring the mirror in just a little bit. People will put too much foundation on, and I was guilty of this too because it's like, oh, it's not staying on, let me put more, and that will rectify the problem. And it doesn't. It just creates more product to start slipping around. The less, the better. And I think that's where if you can use the MAC Paint Pot one, it will give you some coverage because it is pigmented. The Ulta one is pigmented too, but not as much as the MAC one. But like I said, I think that one was too thick and my skin's too dry, or I haven't been able to use, I'm still using too much. So I feel like it does like this weird, and it's just on this side right up here. There's like a weird crease that forms from it. So I could be just, like I said, using too much. But it's a good, I don't have that problem on my eyelids. So, okay. So we've got the foundation everywhere. I put just a little bit to kind of go back over under my eyes because they are so dark. We'll be getting into concealer in a minute. And then the leftover product that is on the sponge. And make sure you are just pushing it in, don't smear it. If you're using a foundation brush, make sure you're doing dabbing motions and not swiping motions, because you're going to move the product around underneath, and you don't want to do that. So then I just dab it on and leave it like that. Now, if you are somebody who has problems with foundation settling into your lines, like this is where the sponge is helpful. So if you haven't used a sponge up to this point, you will want to get any beauty sponge, a damp one. Take a clean spot and just dab it to get up any excess product, because the reason the foundation is settling is because there's excess product. So if you remove the excess, it's going to crease less. Not to say that you're not going to have any creasing, because you probably will, because I do, but this helps. So I just take and you can see the little bit that I removed, and I still have coverage. So that's going to help with the creasing. So yeah, just that little bit will help. So then we're back to the nose, and I'm going to jump to my eyes. So for my situation, I go in with a color corrector. This is the Pixie in Brightening Peach. This is one of the few. Pixie products are hit and miss. I like that glow spray, and I like this. I'm curious to try their tonic water, but Pixie, in my opinion, is overpriced for a drugstore. Pixie, Sonia Kashuk, Physicians Formula are expensive drugstore. And if I'm going to get into, like, this is $12. Or no, it's like $24. That's like, because this is $20. my MAC paint pot. Yeah, this is like a $24 concealer. That boggles my mind. Okay, and then I go in with a stick. This is the Hydro Boost Hydrating Concealer. Now, the trick to covering dark circles is you don't want to go too light. Like if you have really dark circles like I do, you want to go in with a shade that is the same color as your foundation, because that's going to help conceal. If you go in, if I were to go in with a brightening concealer, I can, but it's not going to conceal as well. So you can see that side looks like, I feel like I can still see it a little bit, but it's definitely better. So I go in with this, and then I go in with a little bit of a brightening, because you want that flesh tone. And then I do just a little bit more so on the bottom, because I do wipe my nose a lot, and I feel like, and you saw I just dabbed. So then we go, and this is just the Tarte Shape Tape. I wear light sand, and I do just a dot because this is a heavy concealer. Put it up there, and I have a bigger brush. I like the brush because it doesn't absorb any product, because I feel like I need as much coverage as I can, and I let it hang out kind of under my eyes for just a second. I feel like it helps oxidize it a little bit and really helps give me as much pigmentation as I can get. So I dab again. I don't patting. I guess patting motion might be a better word, but I'm not smearing. And it probably seems excessive to use 3 concealers, but my dark circles are very dark and very stubborn. And the Clinique had a really good concealer duo that came in a compact. I used it years ago, and that was the only thing that on its own like I could use to cover, and they discontinued it years ago, and I'm forever mad. But okay, so that is pretty concealed. Again, like I said, common mistake I was making is I was just going in with this and the brightening, and it wasn't concealing enough. Going in with basically your foundation shade in a concealer stick will help. So for powder, I'm just using the ColourPop translucent powder and the damp sponge, and I'm not baking, I am just setting. That was a lot, so it looks like I'm baking, but I'm just gonna I'm just pushing that in. I do this because I found that this really helps prevent creasing, so I'm not caking it on. Like that was a little bit much, but I'm putting enough to set. I feel like using the damp sponge and really pushing it in helps. I saw JACLYN Hill do this. I didn't come up with this, but I feel like this is one of the few things I've seen her talk about that really like works for me. Not to say that she's full of crap, but... And so again, with the smile lines, and I push the powder in all over my face. I just feel like this really helps really kind of lock everything in. And again, I'm not baking. I'm just using enough powder to set. Baking, you want to be careful with baking, because baking can cause premature wrinkling because you are really dehydrating an area. So like under eye, if you're young, it's not as, I mean, it can cause long-term problems, but you're running the risk of giving yourself wrinkles if you bake all the time. So just be careful. So again, powder, and just make sure again that you're really pushing that powder in. Now, if you don't want to do this all over your face like I am, just do this on your nose. Like take the brush everywhere, but use the sponge. Again, you will need the sponge for this part to push the powder in, because that's really going to help lock in the foundation, and I really make sure that I push it up the bridge, and that's because I wear glasses. If you don't, just really make sure you set right here. But for me, I really try to make sure I take it all the way up because my glasses are going to be rubbing. And it wears off anyway, but it does help. And then I have creasing on my forehead because I'm getting lines, so I really make sure, excuse me, hit those areas. But yeah, I really feel like the damp beauty blender helps kind of meld the powder into my skin. Like I said, JACLYN Hill. I will try to list everybody down below that I got these hacks from, if I'm getting hacks from other people. She did the setting spray thing. I think I forgot that, I'm talking about Nikki Joy did the setting spray thing, but I found that, and I don't know if she does the setting spray as many layers as I do. I've just found that that kind of helps lock in my makeup, but I'll credit her anyway. So then I go in with just, this is one of the Jeffree Star Morphe brushes, and whatever powder is left, and I'll just kind of, I missed any, and I just target my face. I don't put it on my nose. I do like 3 or 4 layers of spray. So we have our foundation on. So then I go in with my all-nighter spray and spray the foundation. And just make sure you let it dry before you move on to the next step, because I did make the mistake of going in too soon and then my bronzer didn't want to blend. So that can happen. So I am going to finish my bronzer, blush, and highlight eyebrows off camera, and I will be right back. Okay, so I did all of my bronzer and blush aside from how I contour my Cupid's bow. Now, I am somebody that doesn't have a very pronounced Cupid's bow, and I like that people do. I mean, you can do lip fillers and stuff too, but if you don't want to do surgery, I think this is a good hack. So for my bottom lip, to make it look, and for bronzers, this is just the Hamptons Weekender little trio from Tarte. So the bronzer in here is Farmer's Market, and this is just some sort of a little pencil eye brush. I take some and I just take it on the bottom. And this creates the illusion of fullness. So with that same brush and a little bit of the bronzer, and then in the middle of the Cupid's bow, and I will shade in the middle. See, it's already looking more pronounced. Same brush, and I just dabbed in once. The peak, so the side of the peak, and you can go as far out or as close to it as you want to, and you're creating the false shadow, so it's making it look, so you can see how that's already changed it. And so dabbed it one more time, same thing on the other side. So I'm contouring my Cupid's bow. So you can see how now it looks more pronounced. And all I used was contour powder. So pillows are falling over. Then I go in with just my highlighter brush. And this is this highlighter that's on my face. This is Beach Getaway. And I just put a little bit on there. But that makes it look like I actually have a Cupid's bow. So that's an easy little hack without having to do injections and stuff. I just have to do it every day, but you saw it takes like 2 seconds. So again, okay, so we sprayed with, at the very beginning, We sprayed when the foundation was done. So now I'm going to spray with the all-nighter one more time. Now that everything is done. Okay, so we're done with the all-nighter. I'm really going to have to buy another one of those soon. Okay, so now that all of that's done, the last thing to talk about is eye primer. Now, if you've watched any of my videos recently, when I have makeup on, you've seen me talk about where, you know, the makeup's been on for 14 to 16 hours. Like, that's not an exaggerated time. I tell you when I put the makeup on. I tell you what time it is when I'm filming. Generally, I'm filming around this time, and it's like 8:30. I do my makeup at 5 o'clock in the morning. So we're in the 16-hour mark generally when I'm filming. For me, eyeshadow primer is crucial. Now, I have invested in the MAC paint pot. This works really well with most eyeshadow formulas, and it's very long wearing. So that's why I like to use it. This is a $20 primer. Now, I do really like the Ulta matte primer. I still use this one. This is what I used on my nose, but I do like it on my eyes. I have the Urban Decay, the anti-aging. This is another good one. For drugstore, I like the CoverGirl Lid Locket. This one stays a little bit tacky, so I don't like this one for pigments because pigments are already hard to blend, and this makes it harder. And then I have the Maybelline Master Prime. It says it's long lasting. It is. This is also a good one. It's just not as pigmented as like this one or the Ulta one. e.l.f. also makes a good primer, and it's only like $1 or $2. Now, is it as long wearing as like these? No, but not, most people are not gonna need it to last 16 hours, so I don't think it's necessary if you don't want to spend a bunch of money. Like I said, for me, it was worth the investment for the MAC, just because of how long the products are on my face. So the other issue people have, I just lost my train of thought, sorry, is creasing. So you'll put the, and I can demonstrate this. This is the MAC. So I know I've heard people say that they've had issues with the e.l.f. one creasing. I think, and even this MAC one will crease on you if you don't, like, I put it on and I go in with eyeshadow right away, so I don't set it. Because I found if I go in with eyeshadow, I put eyeshadow on my whole lid. So if I go in right away and blend out everything, it's setting it essentially. But if you're not going to do your eyeshadow right away, or if you are somebody that like maybe likes putting concealer or a base down on your eyelids if you got discoloration, and it is creasing, then the trick is going to be to set it. Now, you can set it one of two ways. You can use translucent setting powder. So I'll do this on one side. So we got a little bit in there. And then just take, this one looks relatively clean. This is just a fluffy brush. Now, you can go in with a flatter one, but you're just going to want to make sure you go over the whole lid. Now, if you've got I will show you I was just going to tell you what I was going to do on the other side. So this side, we're going to do the translucent powder. So this would be something to do if you do concealer, because you can use concealer as eyeshadow primer, but you're going to want to make sure that you set it. So let's shove that back in. The other way to do it would be, I didn't grab a palette ahead of time. I think the Extra Spice palette has a cream shade. So I'm just going to use the Soph Makeup Revolution Extra Spice. Maybe. That one might be too dark. You want to find an eyeshadow that's basically the same color as your eyelid, as your skin. This looks a little bit lighter. So this is the regular Soph palette. And I don't know, I lost the color sheet. What is this shade? Oh, there's dog hair on it and my hair on it. Pancakes. So this shade right here, Pancakes, that's probably a little bit darker than my skin, but it looks pretty good actually. Okay, so I just dipped into the shadow and I'm going all over. Like I said, I put my primer down almost right before I do my shadow, and that sets it. If you don't do that, or if you do go in right after your primer and you're still having issues with things creasing, then it's probably just not, the primer's not being set well enough is what's happening, and it's causing it to crease. So yeah, if you just set it, and going all over with a shadow from the palette, the only issue you're going to run into, like say I used the shadow out of this and then I went into another palette, some shadows don't play well together. So it does help if you have a shade in the palette you're using anyway that you can set. Just because I have run into that where I've set it with a shadow and then went in with a different palette and there was some blending issues, and I think it, was a formula issue. But then after I do my eye makeup, I go in one last time, and lately I've been using my Apocalyptic Beauty. This is the recently deceased one, but I generally grab just a random spray that I don't mind, just because the Urban Decay one is so expensive. If I know like I'm going somewhere, I will use the Urban Decay one last time, but you don't have to. So this is just an indie setting spray. And this is the one I've been using when I go to work. So then I spray one last time. So I breathed it in, sorry. So we've sprayed our face a total, if you count the first time, 4 times. Now, if for some reason I don't do that, well, then you're only spraying 3 times. But that is how my makeup stays intact for 16 hours. So hopefully these tips were helpful. I think I covered everything. I had a little post-it with points I wanted to cover, so I think I covered everything. Leave me comments if you have any other questions or anything that maybe I did off camera, or if you have questions about anything in general, leave me those comments down below. And thank you so much for watching. Make sure you are subscribed before you leave. I think that's all I have, and hopefully I will see you in my next video. Bye, everybody.